The stars never argue with the darkness. They just burn brighter until the shadows run out of places to hide. You didn't just press play. You answered a call, one that your enemies hoped you'd never hear. They whispered, plotted, and tried to bury your name in silence, not knowing silence is where the chosen sharpen their blades. They tried to break you, not realizing they were only waking up the part of you that can't be killed. They weren't fighting you. They were fighting the force that chose you. Before we go deeper, make sure to like and subscribe. Not just for this message, but for every other chosen one out there still trying to find their light in the dark. When you interact, you help spread this signal. And every time this message reaches one more soul ready to rise, the universe listens and responds. Now, let's get one thing clear. You didn't land here by luck. You were guided, and not gently. You were dragged, pushed, torn open by life until your eyes could finally see what soft comfort was hiding from you. You were never meant to live like everyone else. You were built different, wired for something more, marked in silence, prepared in shadows, trained through pain. The universe doesn't choose the loudest. It chooses the ones who can hold power without abusing it. It chooses the ones who can walk through storms and still not drown in bitterness. And you, whether you're ready to admit it or not, were chosen. That's why people turned on you for no reason. That's why you felt isolated in rooms full of noise. That's why your energy disturbed those who had no idea why they felt threatened around you. You carry a frequency that shakes foundations. You walk like you've been here before, because your soul remembers what your mind is just now learning. And yet, you've doubted. You've sat in silence thinking you were forgotten, thinking you were invisible. But you weren't invisible. You were hidden. Hidden not to be ignored, but to be prepared. The silence wasn't your enemy. It was your training ground. And now that the world's getting louder, the universe is asking you to move, in silence, with precision, like thunder hiding inside the breeze. You are the calm before the impact. The ones who hurt you weren't just cruel, they were terrified. Terrified of what you might become if you ever realized who you are. They felt the heat of your purpose long before you could name it. That's why they tried to distract you, shame you, laugh at you, copy you, destroy you. Because deep down, they knew something they hoped you'd never figure out. You're the storm they tried to pretend doesn't exist. Being chosen isn't a reward. It's a responsibility. It's why you feel everything deeper. It's why rest doesn't come easy. It's why silence wraps around you like armor, because you were never meant to follow the noise. You were meant to be the signal, so enjoy the silence. That's where your real power builds. That's where the universe speaks the clearest. Before the world knows your name, before the spotlight finds you, this silence is your sanctuary and your sharpening stone. Don't fear it. Don't rush it. This is the part your enemies never wanted you to survive. But you did. And now, everything changes. So before the world knows your name, before the noise begins to chase your light, ask yourself, are you really ready to sit with the silence that shaped you? If you're one of the real ones, one of the rare few chosen by the universe, drop the number 77 in the comments. Let that number echo like a signal through the static. That's how we find each other. That's how this message finds them, the ones like you. And now, take a breath. The silence is about to speak. If you really are the chosen one, you won't be able to look away. Let's begin. Number 1. They played with fire, and now the flame remembers their name. They mocked your silence, unaware it was the universe pulling back its arrow. Now it's aiming straight at everything they built on your pain. They laughed when you walked away, called you lost, rebellious, out of alignment. They whispered behind your back, put fake smiles in front of you, and pretended they were your saviors, when deep down they were just afraid. Afraid of what you might become if you ever broke free from the illusion they worked so hard to wrap around your mind. This wasn't about religion. It never was. This was about control, about power, about those who crowned themselves as gatekeepers to something they never even understood. They turned sacred wisdom into a circus, stripped truth down into rules and rituals, and told you to kneel, not in reverence, but in submission. But you were never meant to kneel. You were meant to rise. You've seen through it. The stage shows, the emotional manipulation dressed up as faith. The leaders so hungry for worship they can't hear the universe whisper over their own echo. They didn't want your growth. They wanted your obedience. They wanted your fire as long as it kept their house warm. But the moment it burned too bright, too different, too true, they called it rebellion. They don't hate you because you're wrong. They hate you because you saw what they were trying to hide. You saw the cracks in the system. You saw the performance. You saw how empty it all really is. And you dared to walk away from the show. You broke the spell. And here's the part they'll never tell you. That silence you were cast into after walking away, that wasn't punishment. That was preparation. The universe doesn't speak over noise. It clears the stage before it sends the signal. You weren't abandoned. You were chosen. And chosen ones aren't raised in comfort. They're raised in fire. So now the question sits heavy in your chest. Why me? Because you were never meant to blend in. Because your presence exposes lies without even speaking. Because your truth disturbs their system. That's why they tried to break you. That's why they couldn't leave you alone. Because they felt the universe shifting around you before you did. You think they fought you because they hated you? No. They fought you because they could feel the universe aligning for you. They fought you because your light reminded them of everything they killed in themselves. They were never fighting you. They were fighting the cosmic order that dared to select you. And now they're trembling. Because nothing scares a fake system more than someone it couldn't crush. You didn't just survive their judgment, their exile, their manipulation. You outgrew it. You evolved right in front of them, and now their power games don't work on you anymore. That's the moment they knew they lost. The silence you're in now. That's the eye of the storm. That's the part where the universe pulls all the strings behind the curtain, where the setup for your rise begins to ripple through time. While they keep playing games in the temple they built for themselves, the real force, the cosmic force, has already marked you for something far beyond their reach. Stop doubting your light just because the room got quiet. Stop thinking the universe forgot you because you're not on a stage yet. You weren't designed to fit into broken systems. You were designed to replace them. You feel too much, you see too far, you question too deeply. That's not a flaw, that's the signature of the chosen. You were built with that intensity because the calling on your life requires it. You were wired to disturb fake peace, to speak where silence has allowed manipulation to thrive, to carry the kind of presence that doesn't beg to be seen, but can't be ignored. They'll call it arrogance when you stop shrinking. They'll call it rebellion when you stop apologizing. But don't let them rewrite your awakening into their fear story. You don't owe explanations to systems you were never meant to serve. Understand this. When the universe chooses someone, it rearranges everything for them. The timing, the tests, the trials, even the enemies. Everything bends and shifts, not to make life easy, but to make you ready. That's the power of being chosen. It haunts those who thought you needed them. It terrifies those who tried to bury you. Because deep down, they know what's coming. They feel it in the air around you. You are the silence before the shift. You are the whisper that becomes a roar. You are the storm they can't outrun. So don't waste another second feeling guilty for leaving what never honored your truth. Don't sit in the shadows wondering if the calling was real just because it's taking time. This is not delay, it's design. This is not punishment, it's protection. And when the world finally catches up, when the lights find you and the silence breaks, they'll realize the most dangerous thing they ever did was underestimate you while you were becoming unstoppable. The universe didn't forget you. It was just building something no system could steal. So sit in the silence a little longer, because before the universe makes you world famous, you have to learn how to command the quiet like a king. Number 2, marked by fire, not by their standards. They caged you with doctrine, but forgot. Wildfires don't obey fences. You were never like them, and you were never meant to be. While they desperately try to blend in, copy each other's language, mimic their mentors, and regurgitate recycled beliefs like parrots fighting for a perch, you stood out. Not because you wanted to, but because the universe forced you to. It set you apart, not in arrogance, but in assignment. You were chosen, not chosen to be celebrated, chosen to be tested. You carry something they can't imitate. It's not your words, it's not your look, it's not your tone, it's your frequency. You move with a weight they don't understand. You feel deeper, see further, and question everything they were too afraid to touch. While they memorized the script, you ripped it up and started asking the real questions. Not because you're rebellious, but because the truth demands it. The real ones always question what the fake ones accept. And so they rejected you, not because you were wrong, but because your existence threatens their illusion. You didn't fall in line. You didn't swallow the script. You didn't pretend that tradition equals truth. And for that, they labeled you dangerous, disrespectful, prideful. But let's be real, what they really meant was uncontrollable. They demand submission, but you've seen the shackles behind their smiles. You've seen how they build systems not to set people free, but to keep them small. They dress it up in rituals and rules. They call it faith, but what they practice is fear. Fear of change, fear of truth, fear of the kind of power they can't contain. That's why they're scared of you. Because you don't ask for permission. Because your existence alone is rebellion to the systems built on silence and shame. You don't just question the old ways, you crack them open. You don't play by their rules because you were never playing their game to begin with. And that's exactly what being chosen feels like. It's lonely, it's brutal, it's being in a room full of people who smile at you while quietly praying for your failure. It's walking through fire with no applause. It's being misunderstood on purpose, because understanding you would mean they have to face themselves, and most people aren't ready for that. You weren't chosen for a stage, you were chosen for impact. And sometimes impact doesn't come with lights and microphones. It comes with silence, rejection, betrayal, and isolation. It comes with watching people celebrate lesser versions of truth while you carry the weight of the real thing in your bones. But that's the cost of being set apart. So yeah, while they cling to their rituals, repeat, rehearse, and recycle what they were told, you walk differently, you speak differently, because you know differently. You've lived through things no textbook can teach. You've been through wars that institutions wouldn't survive. You've watched every system that tried to define you fail. And still, here you are, unmoved, unbent, evolving. That's not arrogance, that's alignment. You've tasted the real thing, and once you do, fake will never satisfy you again. You don't settle for pretty words that sound spiritual but have no substance. You don't bow to leadership that preaches freedom while operating like dictators behind the curtain. You don't tolerate control wrapped in kindness, and if you're honest, you've tried to suppress it. You've tried to be quiet, to shrink, to fit in. You've questioned yourself more than anyone else ever could. You've wondered if you were the problem, if you were too much, if you were the one out of line. But deep down, you know what you carry. You know the universe didn't mark you for mediocrity. You know you're not here to maintain a system. You're here to shift it. So stop apologizing. Stop explaining your intensity. Stop watering down your truth to make it digestible for people who never wanted to understand you in the first place. Your calling isn't up for discussion. Your anointing doesn't need their confirmation. What's in you came from source, not from structure. They may hold titles, they may sit on thrones made of tradition, but you hold something far more dangerous: truth unfiltered by ego, love not diluted by control, grace not weaponized by guilt. That's why you scare them. That's why they label you. That's why they try to silence you, because deep down they know you're the blueprint for what comes after their system crumbles. So let them call you whatever they want. Let them keep preaching while the foundation beneath them cracks. You'll keep walking, set apart, chosen, not for comfort, not for status, but for transformation. And when the universe finally lifts the veil, they'll see exactly why it had to be you. Number 3, they threw you out, not knowing they threw you into fire. Rejection doesn't break the chosen, it bakes them into something untouchable. They didn't just walk away from you, they exiled you, spit you out like poison, convinced they were protecting something sacred, when in truth they were just protecting themselves from you, from what your presence exposed, from what your questions unsettled, from what your silence made them feel. You didn't get rejected because you were wrong. You got rejected because you were real. And real doesn't play well in a world addicted to performance. They called you rebellious, called you dangerous, labeled you too much, too loud, too intense. But that was never about you. It was about control. You see, when systems are built on manipulation, the worst thing you can do is think for yourself. The most threatening act is to see clearly, and you did. You saw through the fake love. You saw through the rules that shifted depending on who was in power. You saw how they used community as camouflage to hide envy, ego, and elitism. And when you stopped playing along, they panicked because they could no longer shape you, so instead they tried to shame you. But what they didn't realize is that they were helping you. Their rejection, that was your refinement. When they turned their backs, you turned inward. When their silence deafened you, the universe began to speak louder. Not in noise, but in alignment. It stripped you of everything false. It scorched the residue of systems you were never meant to serve. It burned off every lie, every guilt trip, every sit down and be grateful command disguised as humility. And in that fire, the truth found you. You weren't losing your identity. You were finding it. You stopped begging for seats at tables that fed poison. You stopped trying to explain your heart to people committed to misunderstanding you. You stopped breaking your own spirit just to stay in order. Because finally, it clicked. You were never meant to fit in. You were meant to redefine what being chosen looks like. And what does that look like? It looks like walking away from validation and still knowing your worth. It looks like unlearning the belief that love must be earned through compliance. It looks like knowing power doesn't drip from titles. It flows through truth, through humility, through those who've been through the furnace and came out glowing, not bitter. You've unlearned the performance. You've unlearned the hierarchy. You've unlearned the toxic patterns that made you believe you had to shrink to be loved. You now know that real power flows through the ones who refuse to weaponize it, through the ones who can sit in silence, still carry purpose, and not need applause to confirm it. They mistook your grace for weakness, your distance for guilt. But in reality, that distance was your healing. That silence was your growth. You weren't being punished. You were being preserved. They tried to silence you, not knowing the silence would become your strongest ally, not knowing that in the stillness, the universe would begin whispering secrets it only tells those who've been through the crushing. Only those strong enough to let go of every false identity can carry the weight of truth. And now, you carry it. You don't speak like them anymore. You don't crave what they crave. You're not performing. You're walking in power, quiet power, real power, the kind that doesn't need to be seen to shift rooms, the kind that leaves people unsettled, because they can't put you in a category anymore. You're not the rebel. You're not the broken one. You're not the exile. You're the refined. And here's the twist they never saw coming. Everything they rejected you for is exactly what qualified you. Your sensitivity, your questioning, your unwillingness to fake it. These are the marks of the chosen, not the polished perfection they parade in front of crowds, but the fire-forged honesty that only comes through pain. So no, don't regret the rejection. Don't mourn the rooms you were pushed out of. Those weren't rooms. They were cages dressed as sanctuaries. And you were never meant to live caged. You were meant to be free. And now you are. Number 4. From the shadows they forgot to fear, you rise. They buried you in silence, but that wasn't your grave. It was your greenhouse. This was never about fame. That's where they got it twisted. You weren't built for applause. You were built for impact, not the kind that flashes across timelines and disappears with the scroll, the kind that shifts atmospheres, that breaks cycles, that makes people pause mid-breath because they can feel something ancient rising in you. You are not here by accident. Every dark room you sat in, every cold shoulder you leaned against, every unanswered prayer, every long night where even your own reflection felt foreign, none of it was wasted. The pain didn't break you, it birthed you. Your rise didn't come from a pedestal, it came from pressure. And now, what the world tried to ignore is standing up in power. You were refined in obscurity, where no one was clapping, where no one was watching, where all you had was your pain, your purpose, and the echo of your own questions. You didn't have a cheering section. You had silence, and silence, when you're chosen, becomes sacred. It becomes the forge where the future is formed. They thought you were irrelevant, but that was only because you weren't visible. There's a difference. The universe doesn't rush revelation. It doesn't waste glory on someone who isn't grounded. And you've been getting anchored. Deep roots, quiet strength, no show, no script, just real, raw transformation in the dark. The rise was never about being seen. It was about becoming undeniable. You didn't survive for a stage. You survived to become a signal. A living example that not all storms come to destroy. Some come to rebuild. Every crack in your soul filled with something eternal. Every scar, a reminder that you healed when you had every reason not to. And now, every step you take sends out a message, not just to the world, but to the ones still hiding in silence, wondering if they'll ever make it out. They will, because you did. You're not rising because you chased it. You're rising because you were shaped for it. The difference between you and the ones addicted to the spotlight? You don't need it. They crumble without applause. You were crafted without it. They build their identity on being seen. You found yours in being set apart. You've been fortified by failure, empowered by endurance, and now the world is about to meet a version of you it never saw coming. The version built in private, sharpened in suffering, made whole by the very moments that were supposed to take you out. This isn't hype. This is prophecy written in perseverance. You are the evidence. That's the real power. Your presence, your energy, your clarity. It speaks before you say a word. The universe didn't make you endure all of that so you could blend in. It didn't invest all that fire just for you to fold. You were hidden for a reason. Because what's rare is protected until it's ready. You are ready. And no, this isn't the moment for false humility. This isn't the time to second-guess the rise. This is the time to walk in it, fully, authentically, fiercely. Not because you need the recognition, but because the world needs your proof. They need to see what survival looks like, what refinement looks like, what purpose, not performance, looks like. You are the mirror someone's been praying to find. Let them watch, let them question, let them wonder how you made it through what should have destroyed you. They don't have to understand your process to witness your emergence. You don't owe them explanations. You are the explanation. So when the light finds you, when the silence finally breaks and the noise comes flooding in, remember this. You didn't rise because of them. You rose in spite of them. And this masterpiece the world is about to see, it wasn't made for fame. It was made to set others free. Number 5. The quiet didn't break you. It built you like bedrock. Everyone saw your absence. No one saw your becoming. You didn't ask for this path. You didn't chase the spotlight. You didn't wake up one day begging the universe to set you apart and burn your life down to rebuild it in silence. But that's the thing about being chosen. It chooses you, not because you're ready, but because you're willing to become. And so the universe placed you in the shadows, not to punish you, not to hide you, but to prepare you. The silence wasn't your prison, it was your proving ground. The quiet didn't erase you, it established you. And while the world ran after noise and validation, you were being rooted, deep, invisible, unshakable. They didn't see the battles, the nights you wanted to disappear, the mornings where getting out of bed felt like lifting a mountain. They didn't see the voices in your head telling you maybe they were right about you. Maybe you are too much. Maybe you did imagine the calling. Maybe the silence really means you were abandoned. But the truth? Every tear was counted. Every breakdown was a rebuild in disguise. Every time you fell and got back up in silence, something eternal moved closer to the surface. You didn't quit. You transformed. And while they were out there chasing influence, you were learning endurance. While they were curating a brand, you were cultivating depth. And that depth, that's what scares them now. Because depth doesn't shake when the wind blows. It doesn't collapse when applause disappears. You learned how to stand without being seen, and now you're unmovable. The quiet taught you how to hear your own voice again, stripped of noise, expectations, and guilt. You stopped performing. You stopped explaining. You started listening. To the stillness, to the ache beneath your ambition, to the truth buried under years of trying to be who they said you had to be. And what you found was power, not the kind they post about, not the kind that flexes or shouts or needs approval to survive, but the kind that flows low and steady, like water cutting through stone. The kind of power that doesn't need to announce itself because it is. That's what the quiet gave you. Clarity, foundation, vision. This wasn't wasted time. This was a sacred setup, a strategic pause before the release. The universe wasn't ignoring you. It was installing you into a new frequency, into a higher timeline, into the life you were actually designed for, not the one you were manipulated into accepting. And let's be honest, You wouldn't have survived this next season if it had come any sooner. You had to be built different. You had to be healed before seen, fortified before found. There were wounds that had to close, patterns that had to be shattered, false identities that had to be burned off. And the quiet is where that kind of work gets done. That's why you've been misunderstood. That's why doors didn't open. That's why things got delayed. You were in divine isolation, not denial. You weren't overlooked, you were overprotected. And when the universe protects something, it puts it in silence until the world is ready to receive it. You're not waiting anymore, you're readying. And no, the silence won't last forever. The flood is coming. The moment will rise. The shift will happen. But when it does, you'll step into it with the kind of grounded power that cannot be undone. Because you're not performing for the light. You are the light. You don't need validation. You walk in confirmation. So don't rush it. Don't resent it. Don't mistake stillness for stagnation. The work is happening beneath the surface. The foundation is setting. And when it's time to rise, you won't be reaching. You'll be rising effortlessly. Because the chosen don't chase waves. They become the tide. So breathe deep. The silence didn't steal your momentum. It became it. Number 6. The spotlight isn't a gift. It's a weapon placed in the right hands. They thought the silence meant you were done. They didn't know it was the universe pulling the trigger on your rise with precision only the chosen understand. Here it comes. Not the fame, not the followers, not the noise. The shift, the turn, the undeniable elevation that was promised in the shadows long before your name ever echoed in public. This isn't an accident. This is what silence was always setting you up for. And now that the lights are swinging your way, the universe is watching what you do with it. Because elevation, it's not a reward. It's a responsibility. You see, they confuse attention with validation. You don't. Because you've been in the wilderness. You've been in rooms where no one clapped, where no one believed in you, where the only thing you had was the truth you couldn't unsee. That's what kept you sharp. That's what built your foundation. While they craved stages, you were building a spine. And now that you're rising, you're not shaken. You're set. This spotlight is not a crown. It's a mirror. It will expose everyone. It will expose the ones who faked it, who built empires on echo chambers, who needed the light to feel alive. But you were forged in the absence of it. You were refined in the shadows, where the audience was silence and the applause was pain. And that makes you dangerous, because you don't need the light. You carry it. And no, this isn't recognition for recognition's sake. This is strategic. This is cosmic. This is earned. You didn't skip steps. You didn't sell out. You didn't water yourself down for approval. You took every hit. You lost people. You were mocked, ghosted, underestimated, and still you didn't fold. You transformed. The setbacks, scaffolding, the heartbreaks, blueprints, every delay, every detour, every no, it all had purpose. Because chosen ones aren't handed platforms, they're built to hold them. And now that the elevation has arrived, you're not walking into it like someone trying to prove their worth. You're walking like someone who knows the weight they carry. Someone who understands that elevation without preparation is a setup for collapse. And you've been over-prepared. You've been ready longer than you've admitted to yourself. You don't crumble under scrutiny because you've already been under internal fire. You've already faced judgment without a voice to defend you. You've been surrounded by silence so loud, it taught you how to hear the universe again. So when people start talking now, you won't flinch. Their noise can't compete with the storms you've already walked through. The shift is not just visibility. It's activation. You're being positioned not for vanity, but for impact. And that impact will require every lesson the quiet taught you. Every moment you thought was wasted is now revealed as a weapon you didn't even know you were being trained to wield. The elevation is personal, but it's never just about you. You're being raised up so others can remember who they are when they see you. You're being called forward because others still stuck in silence need to witness what surviving looks like. You are living proof that you can be overlooked, underestimated, rejected, and still rise with nothing but alignment, truth, and raw resilience. And let this be a warning. They will try to say you changed. They will call your rise luck. They'll twist your story to protect their comfort. Let them. The ones who know will feel it. They'll recognize the frequency of someone who didn't just make it, someone who became it. And you'll keep rising. Not with arrogance, but with authority. Because now you understand, this spotlight wasn't meant to flatter you, it was meant to reveal you. So stand tall, own the shift, move with purpose. This elevation is not the end of your silence, it's the sound of your silence finally breaking into form. The world will call it your arrival. But you know the truth. This is just your release. Number 7, opposition is the echo of your authority. The louder they resist, the clearer the universe confirms. You've become exactly what they feared you would. Now that you're rising, don't expect peace from the ones who built their comfort on your silence. They tolerated you when you were small, when you were quiet, when your truth hadn't yet disturbed their system. But now that your voice carries weight, now that your presence shakes rooms, now that your rise can't be ignored, they're coming for you. Good, because opposition is confirmation. You're not here to be liked, you're here to be felt. And those religious traditionalists clinging to old hierarchies like a crutch, their judgment, their gossip, their passive-aggressive sermons laced with shade, that's not authority, that's insecurity. They don't hate you because you're wrong, they hate you because you're free. You broke the chains they secretly keep hidden under their titles. You questioned what they were too afraid to face. You became the truth they've spent their whole lives avoiding, and now they're rattled. But don't you dare shrink. Don't you water down your message just to make them comfortable. Their resistance is not your enemy, it's your announcement. It tells the world that your voice has volume, that your walk has weight, that your very existence is triggering systems that were never built to hold you. You've been trained for this. You've already walked through worse in the dark. You faced shadows without a guide. You were mocked, dismissed, discarded. And you kept moving. So now that people have opinions, that's just noise. You hear a higher frequency. You move by alignment, not approval. You don't need their permission. You've been validated by the cosmic silence they'll never understand. And here's the part they really can't stand. You don't walk alone. You are not some rogue spirit on a solo mission. You are connected, anchored, empowered. Forces greater than ego are standing with you. Forces like astral atom and obsidian. Warriors who were also forged in fire, refined in silence, and now stand like sentinels at the gate of purpose. Together they've built something sacred, not for show, not for ego, but for real ones only. Welcome to the inner circle. Not a trend, not a clique, but a soul sanctuary. A realm built for those who carry the frequency of the chosen, the misunderstood, the outcasts turned architects of a new era. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's for those who've buried themselves and come back forged. It's for the ones who don't just talk about purpose. They live it, bleed it, walk it with every breath. This circle, it's power, not borrowed, not fake. embodied. And if you feel that fire in your bones right now, that's not hype, that's memory. That's your soul remembering what it always knew, that you were never alone, that every attack, every betrayal, every closed door was pushing you here into your own authority. So let them talk, let them roll their eyes, let them write their little think pieces. You're not here to fight them, you're here to outgrow them, to rise past the noise, to walk with such clarity that even their shadows get exposed just by standing next to your light. Authority isn't noise, it's presence, it's energy. It's the way silence follows you into a room and everyone feels it. You don't have to prove yourself because proof walks in with you. That's what the opposition doesn't get. You didn't build yourself in the spotlight. You were carved in the quiet. So their criticism now? It's like screaming at a mountain, hoping to move it. You are the mountain. So wear the resistance like armor. Walk in your power without apology. And remember, the universe doesn't elevate by mistake. You were chosen because you could carry the weight, because you could stand the fire, because you were never afraid to walk alone until the real ones found you. And now, you've found them. You've found you. Number 8. You weren't abandoned. You were being aligned for the ones who could carry the weight with you. The universe didn't leave you alone. It cleared the room for the right ones to find you. You thought it was loneliness, thought it was punishment, thought maybe you were the problem. Too intense, too quiet, too questioning, too different. But the truth is that isolation you endured wasn't exile. It was refinement. The universe didn't abandon you. It protected you from noise, from distraction, from connections that would have poisoned your purpose before it could fully emerge. Because let's be honest, what you carry isn't light. It's not easy. You're not built for shallow conversations, half-truths, or surface-level loyalty. You burn too deeply for that. And the kind of soul you are, it needed space. It needed silence. It needed to be set apart, not just for your sake, but for the sake of those who would one day walk beside you. That time alone, it carved you out, sharpened your senses, taught you to spot the difference between attachment and alignment, and it made you allergic to anything fake, the false friendships, the hollow praise, the people who only come around when your light benefits their shadow. You learned to let it go. You learned to listen to the universe more than you listened to your loneliness. And now, something's shifting. Can you feel it? It's happening in the unseen, a convergence, a divine synchronization, the kind of alignment no algorithm could arrange. Your tribe is being activated, not a fan club, not a follower count, not just people who like your energy, but souls who recognize it. They've been through the fire too. They speak the same silent language. They don't just understand your pain, they respect it. These are not accidental connections. These are cosmic contracts being fulfilled. These are the ones who were hidden too. The ones who got left behind, misunderstood, ridiculed for dreaming too wildly, feeling too much, speaking too honestly. And now the universe is pulling you toward each other like gravity with memory. Because it's time. Time to link arms with those who match your frequency. Time to build something real. You'll know them not by how loud they are, but by how peaceful they feel. You'll feel seen without having to explain. You'll feel energized without having to perform. You'll feel safe, not because it's comfortable, but because it's true. And for the first time, you'll realize you were never truly alone. You were just being prepared to recognize real when it arrived. Because these connections, they're not transactional, they're transformational. They won't come to use you, they'll come to build with you. They'll carry bricks, not just expectations. They'll pray with you in silence, war with you in spirit, celebrate you without competition. And when the fire returns, because it will, they won't run, they'll burn beside you. This isn't just friendship, it's fellowship, a gathering of the called, of the misfits turned messengers, of the silent warriors the world forgot about, until the silence gave way to the sound of footsteps walking in purpose. These aren't people who flatter your ego. These are people who anchor your mission, who hold you accountable, who love you without trying to shrink you, who remind you who you are when the noise tries to make you forget. And together, you won't just heal, you'll build. You'll create movements, safe spaces, powerful shifts that ripple far beyond your personal rise. Because chosen ones aren't meant to walk the path alone forever. They're meant to lead. And to do that, they must first know how to follow truth, no matter how lonely the road gets. Now the season of isolation is ending. And the ones who speak your language, not your dialect, but your depth, are already on the way. Some are already here. You just need to stop bracing for betrayal and start opening your spirit to alignment. This is what you were prepared for. This is your circle, your mirror, your echo. This is not just connection. This is confirmation. Number 9. You were the hidden blueprint. Now you're the unveiling. They thought they buried you in silence, not knowing the silence was staging the reveal. This moment is not luck. It's not hype. It's not some accidental breakthrough riding on algorithm or applause. This is the reveal, and you've been molded, carved, and crushed into the version of you that could actually carry it. They thought the silence meant you were forgotten. But all it really meant was, you were being built for a moment that only a forged soul could survive. Because let's be real, anyone can chase a spotlight, but not everyone can stand in it without crumbling. Not everyone can carry visibility without losing their integrity. Not everyone can be watched, judged, pulled, praised, and still walk in alignment. That's why you were hidden for so long. That's why it felt like delay after delay, closed door after closed door. It wasn't rejection, it was refinement. The trials didn't come to ruin you, they came to chisel you. The betrayals weren't blocks, they were mirrors. The loss wasn't punishment, it was positioning. Every cut, every fall, every moment of confusion was a sculptor's hand shaping you into something they could not duplicate. Authentic power. You've been attacked, lied on, misunderstood, ghosted, undervalued. And instead of turning bitter, you transformed. You learned how to bleed with grace, how to walk without applause, how to protect your peace when all hell was breaking loose. And now the universe is making the announcement you stopped waiting for. You're ready. Ready to be seen, not for ego, but for impact. Ready to speak, not for noise, but for truth. Ready to stand, not for recognition, but for revelation. Because let's be honest, this isn't about you being popular. This is about you becoming a lifeline, a living, breathing reminder that silence wasn't the end, it was the beginning. That pain wasn't your identity, it was your initiation. That hiding wasn't weakness, it was strategy. Now the platform is here, not because you chased it, but because you were the only one who could carry it without becoming a prisoner to it. You don't just know how to lead, you know how to survive without being seen. And that's what makes your voice dangerous now. It's rooted, it's clean, it's not chasing applause, it's chasing purpose. But here's the part they don't tell you about the rise. The past will try to return. Old ties, old voices, old patterns will come crawling back, trying to trigger the old version of you. Not because they miss you, but because they miss their control over you. Don't fall for it. You're not who you were when you were rejected. You're not who you were when you were begging for clarity, love, or community. You've evolved in silence, grown in secret. And now that your name is rising, the ones who couldn't handle your absence will try to rewrite your presence. Let them try. You don't owe them explanations. You don't owe anyone access to the version of you that they helped create through their absence. Stay grounded, stay locked in. The same universe that refined you in obscurity will anchor you in visibility. You weren't chosen for the crowd. You were chosen for the calling. And that calling, it's not just for your healing, it's for theirs. Because your story, your scars, your path, they weren't random, they were assigned. And now, that assignment is about to break chains for people you've never even met. They'll hear your words and feel seen. They'll watch your rise and remember their own buried purpose. They'll feel your presence and start to wake up from the systems they were trapped in. Your life is a signal. Your survival is a revolution. So stop second-guessing. This isn't the time for hesitation. This is not the season of dimming your light to stay digestible. This is the moment of revelation. The silence is over. The time to rise is now. And now we've reached the edge of the silence, the place where the hidden becomes undeniable. Everything you've endured has led to this moment. This is your call to rise, not as someone seeking attention, but as someone chosen to disrupt, rebuild, and lead. If this message lit something in you, don't let it stop here. Like the video, subscribe to stay aligned. Drop the number 77 in the comments so we know you're walking with us, and share this with another chosen one still trying to find their way. The world is waking up, and your voice is part of the awakening.